I'm honored and excited to have our next guest. He's a poet, author, and entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, Joshua Psalms.
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
Hey man, thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time to join Christ Over Crypto today. We have a few things to get to, so I'm going to jump right in. We're going to kind of work backwards. For those who don't know, I introduced obviously as a poet, but more aptly, you're a spoken word artist. So for the uninitiated, how does, say, spoken word differ from rap or classical poetry? Is it a combination of the two? Like how would you describe for the uninitiated what spoken word is and what the artistry is behind it?
So, spoken word, it can contain elements of rap, slash hip hop. It can contain elements of classical. The way I look at and view spoken word is culminating a collection of words that that will give off a message that people can walk away with and people can chew on after you're done performing. Whether that's the words inspire them, encourage them, whether your words really make people think about issues that are currently plaguing themselves, their family, their friends, their community, their city, state, nation, or world. Spoken word is just that. It can leave you with a feeling, with a message that can, and most spoken word artists will share this with you, that will leave something with you to carry on throughout the rest of the night, day, and maybe even the rest of your life.
Well, I mean, that's pretty interesting. So just let me ask you one more technical question. When it comes to you coming up with, say, a piece of spoken word, do you have any technical things? Like, do you base it on, how poetry, you have a sonnet, you have a haiku, a limerick? Is there any type of rhyme scheme, or is it just free thought that's making people just, realize something, maybe like you said, that they hadn't thought about, something to chew on? Or is there a rhyme and reason and structure behind what you do?
Well, for one, I consider myself free verse. So, I'm not the guy that's going to always stick to the haiku type of poetic structure, or, my poems, every stanza may not rhyme, because to me, more important than rhyming in a certain type of structure that you use, it's all about the message. It's all about what can I impart into the audience, that when they leave the open mic night, when they leave this show, that something I said can chomp at them and hopefully lead to meaningful conversations.
That's a good word right there, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Joshua Psalms, poet, entrepreneur. You're listening to Christ Over Crypto. You can listen to this episode or any episode on iTunes. Just subscribe there. Next question I have for you is, this obviously is something that has to be a gift. This kind of thing. I don't think that anybody can just get up there and do. I've heard some of your work. How did you know when you felt like God had touched you and said, man, you know what? I have this ability to look at situations in the world, look at political situations, look at social situations, and then turn that into an art form that people obviously can get something from, not just from a mental standpoint, but also kind of enjoy the product and listening to it?
Ooh, it's kind of a loaded question. To be honest, I don't know exactly when it was imparted unto me that, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this, and then I'm going to mix it in with the gospel. I mean, I will say that I've been writing poetry and spoken word off and on since high school. So we're talking 18 years. And so with that, I obviously going from a teenager and then to a college student to a young man and now to a mature man, obviously I've always had this affinity for writing in general, but because I also do some blogging from time to time, but it's just something about poetry and spoken word that I just really love and enjoy. And so with that, I take my love or that love, and then I combine it with my heart for the gospel, and it just makes it's interesting because sometimes when I go back and listen to my previous works, I'm like, wow, that was me. Because it's just amazing how when I'm writing, I'm in the zone. When I have a gospel message attached to it, then it just becomes explosive. So you just on and off for almost 2 decades. It's just been a blessing to see how God has taken me from where I first started to now. It's and sometimes the Holy Spirit will give me some bars, and then I have to write it down before I forget it, so I can expound upon it later. But yeah, it's just a blessing to be able to do this and to be able to do it for so long, and hopefully to continue doing it.
That was a really good answer. I think you nailed it. I'm going to ask you a follow-on question to that, which is, obviously I've actually heard some of your work, listened to some of your stuff, and you obviously have a mind for the socially and political things that are going on in the world. You're not, oblivious to that. And a lot of the things that have happened recently in America, you've heard about people being woke. And one of the things in Black America in particular is being woke doesn't necessarily go with Christianity. So how do you respond to, say, somebody who would look at your work and say, well, I mean, it's all right, but if you were really woke, you wouldn't, talk about, you don't understand Christianity. It's what's keeping us down. You're not woke enough. Have you encountered that? And if you did encounter that, how would you respond to somebody?
So yes, I've encountered that. And yes, the term woke has just turned like into this monster that now that it just seems to like hover over everybody. So I mean, so you can't really ignore it. So I mean, because it's so large throughout the culture. So you're gonna have to talk about it and you're gonna have to deal with it. And I would say that there are still some misconceptions, about the woke side of the community and how they view Christianity. There's still a lot of, for lack of a better term, there's still some pseudo knowledge being passed around that Christianity is the white man's religion, that Jesus wasn't really he wasn't named in any biblical text until the Nicene Council. And so there is a lot of that, a lot of woke community just responding to that directly. I'm not gonna say they don't know, but it's like they just gloss over the fact that Christianity was in Ethiopia way before the Nicene Council, way before European travelers and slave traders came to the continent. So again, it's this love-hate thing, but because on one hand, culturally and socially, being woke is good as far as being woke to who you are, Black and or African history, and teaching that to your family and your children. However, there's still this discomfort and this hate with Christianity, and so as it relates to me and when I'm performing any event or show that I go to or that I'm invited to, I go in already knowing that there's going to be a set number of woke folks there who aren't going to feel the gospel, who aren't going to feel my poetry because the foundation of my performances are gospel based. However, I've come to accept that, and that doesn't deter me or scare me from performing, because I understand that unfortunately not everybody is just going to agree with Christianity, and not everyone is going to accept Jesus, but that still shouldn't stop me. That shouldn't stop you or any other believer who's seeking after God and living His word and submitting to His will.
Yeah, I mean that was great. I mean, I'm really impressed that you have dealt with that and you continue down the path. That's a great testament to your story, that you know, obviously we think about the persecution, you know, Christians suffered, and we don't suffer anything like that. But sometimes I think you kind of know you're going in the right direction when you're actually stirring people up with your faith. And I think, you know, it's not the gospel, it will offend those who don't want to hear the truth. So I applaud you for you know, standing your ground and going to places where you know you're going to be criticized and people aren't going to receive it. But you know, it's not about everybody. It's about, you know, that whoever, if it's one person audience who receives it, is worth it. So I commend you for that. The next thing I want to ask you is, you know, you've been doing this for 18 years. You know, how far do you see yourself going? Is this something that you say, man, you know what, I could do this full time? I could, you know, go around, you know, the country, have my own YouTube channel, doing spoken word, like making, you know, how serious are you about this craft? How far can you go with it?
I mean, as long as my love for the craft is still there, then I can always see myself doing it. I mean, I can see myself traveling across the country to perform a spoken word, to share the gospel-based foundation behind the certain poems that I recite or perform. So I've always had that vision in my head, but it's just being patient, you know, allowing God to open up doors on His time, which we both know can be frustrating sometimes. But you know, I can see myself going as far as God allows me to go with using spoken word and poetry as a vehicle to share the gospel.
Man, that's a great answer. Quick question: do you have any shows that are coming up that our listeners, you know, you've said so much great stuff. Where can our listeners connect with you? When's your next show? And do you have anything on? And as a follow-on, do you have anything online where people can jump and see your stuff? Just let us know that as well.
So people can keep up with me and what I'm doing at my website, www.spokenice.com. Again, that is www.spokenice.com. My next performance will be August 18th in Baltimore, Maryland, at the Showroom Cafe. It's gonna be that's gonna be an awesome night, because it'll be myself and it'll be 7 or 8 other poets, a couple of singers as well. They'll be there, and so we're expecting it to be a good show and a good time. And so that's my next performance. Again, that is at the Showroom Cafe in Baltimore, Maryland, on Saturday, August 18th.
That sounds great, and that's definitely something that we want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, to come out and support Joshua. If you are in the area on August 18th, definitely come out. And I'll have all the details in the description when you see this, when you hear this interview. So man, that was really, really great. I think I don't think I have anything else for you. I guess the last thing is, you know, when you started writing 18 years ago, did you think that you would have come as far as you have? Or are you shocked, or do you think that, man, you know what, I'm just getting started?
So no, I had no idea that poetry would be such a big part of my life, and that I'd still be doing it, on and off for almost 2 decades. So that part still shocks me, because what started out as just a hobby, what started out as, hey, let's see if I can actually do this, and to be where it is today. And I mean, it's just absolutely a blessing.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Joshua Psalms. You can see him on www.spokenice.com, and you can check out his work there. Also, August 18th, at the Baltimore showroom, he is performing live. You can see him there. Again, I'll have all the details for you in the description or on the actual link, depending on how you're viewing this. If you're viewing this on YouTube, it'll be in the description. If you're on the podcast, and you'll have to go to the website and check it out. But again, thank you, Joshua, for joining us, and Godspeed in all of your endeavors of spoken word in the future.
Man, thank you for having me. It's truly been a blessing.